This is Brendan McLaughlin. This is my sixth week on the film and TV course. This week we're back to normal because last week we had the trip week. We're back to doing our genres. This week we've done comedy, specifically looking at spoof because comedy is such a big genre. Spoof being where it's kind of like parodies and stuff like that. Think Scary Movie to Scream, Spaceballs to Star Wars, that kind of stuff. Overall, I think this was a pretty decent week if I'm talking overall. This was a pretty unique week because normally we do Wednesday we do the theory, Thursday we do experiment and plan, and then Friday we film. But this week we had Wednesday be like more of a catch up. Thursday was the kind of analysis and stuff like that and understanding genre, and then Friday we planned and filmed. So we had a bit more of a tighter deadline on top of the usual tighter deadline. But I think I've done pretty well. So let's just get into Wednesday. That was the catch-up day where I done Seriously Good TV. Okay, so as I previously mentioned, Wednesday was a catch-up day. Due to me kind of being ahead of my work, as you can see my previous reflection logs, I kind of normally get the work done by about like Sunday, I would say. I actually didn't do any catch-up today, but I did help out with Seriously Good TV. Seriously Good TV is a thing that's kind of part of my kind of work experience and apprenticeship. It's a thing that's run in the college, but it's separate. So Seriously Good TV is just a live show, and what I do is I edit because I'm specialising in editing. So what I done today was, on that day, was I basically edited this interview that would be going up on their YouTube channel, I think. There's kind of this interview done to sports people. It was a challenging edit. The biggest reason was because there was two cameras, so one was pointing at like everyone and another camera was pointing at whoever was talking. So the idea was that I would cut between them to kind of give a nice flow to the edit. Problem was that the second camera that was moving wasn't that fast, so I had to kind of time the edit really well so I didn't see the movement. And the second problem was that like basically near the end of the footage, for some reason I wasn't there on the shoot, both cameras kind of converged onto one person. So what I had to do was I basically took raw footage from earlier that no one was really talking, kind of blended it in to kind of give the seamless idea that they were reacting to what the guy was talking about. That was one of the biggest problems. So I say, if you're talking pros and cons of this day, is that I would say the biggest pro I had was kind of that problem solving aspect where I did have this problem with the footage, and obviously you can't just go back and shoot it. So what I did was kind of problem solve by basically looking at it and trying to make the best I can do. Like obviously if they could reshoot it, I'd advise reshooting it because it does look a bit janky, especially near the end where you have those two cameras converging. But I think I've done pretty well. I did have also, I think my biggest con is I'm not very good with audio. I think my biggest thing I need to work on is audio issues because I'm not very good at kind of like volume levels and stuff like that. And if I'm being honest, when I kind of look back on it, I think that I could have done a better job with the audio because I'm not very good at audio. Basically, there was two audio sources in this video, one from the camera and one from like a handheld microphone. Like I have here, I have my camera and my microphone. I could have mixed the audio better and kind of sorted it out better, but I decided to use the microphone audio because it was cleaner. But I could have mixed the audio and made a better kind of overall audio. So I'd say that's my biggest con to the kind of Seriously Good TV day, and something that I think as you get more experience with audio and stuff like that, I'll get better at. So overall, I think it's a good day. Just kind of like a mini kind of day. It's always Wednesday's always a shorter day. It's only about 4 hours in the college, but I was able to do this Seriously Good video. I got it all done in the time space. I think I've done pretty well, and I did catch up some just general work. I just kind of cleaned up my website. I went through my website just to make sure I had everything on it because sometimes I do forget stuff, but I did have everything on it. And I'm excited for next week where we have our midpoint check, where this was the whole point of this catch-up day, was to get ready for that midpoint check where our teachers can't look over our work and say, hey, this is what you need to do, this is what you don't need to do, stuff like that. So Wednesday, pretty short day. Next day will be Thursday, where we're actually going into the actual theory and kind of actually going into comedy / spoof week. Okay, as I mentioned, Thursday was the theory day. This is usually Wednesday, but this week, because of the catch up and the midpoint session next week, we actually had here on Thursday. We're looking at comedy, specifically more the subgenre of spoof, because comedy is such an all-encompassing genre compared to something like surrealism that's very specific. So the first thing we done was a free comedy breakdown. So this is basically where we looked at 3 scenes. Specifically, I remember I looked at Mr. Bean, Rick and Morty, and another one. I'll put it up on the screen right now. And basically kind of broke it down and broke down how they done the comedy so that and what everything meant, and like why they chose these specific things to be kind of funny. And I think this was kind of difficult to me. I think it's also a difficult task for me overall, because comedy is such a subjective thing. It's kind of difficult to say why is something funny, and break it down. I think, well, looking back on my work, I feel like some of them are a bit weak in that kind of the explanation that I gave and stuff like that. So if I was to do it again, and if I had the opportunity to do this again, I think I would go in more detail and stuff like that and really break it down. I think the first one, Mr. Bean, was pretty good because that's more slapstick, and slapstick's easy to understand. But something like Rick and Morty that I'd done got a bit kind of complicated, and I think I keep just repeating myself quite a lot. I do quite a lot in my kind of work, is I accidentally kind of repeat myself. So I think that was my biggest con, if we're talking overall of the day, was the free comedy breakdown. So next we went into spoof comparison. This is where we kind of really went into the spoof genre. So what we done was we take a spoof scene and we look at the original movie. For example, I done Spaceballs. That is probably one of the most famous spoofs, and of Star Wars. I simply looked at the scene where Dark Helmet, the parody of Darth Vader, comes into the scene, and I kind of just broke it down. So I looked at looked at the similarities and how they create comedy. And so, for example, with Star Wars has this kind of, it uses the same kind of cinematography, same score, but it has a punchline at the end, where Star Wars has a dramatic reveal. I kind of broke that down, stuff like that, and done the comparison. I would say out of the 3 tasks there, I'd say this was one of the middle ones. The next task went really well, and last task obviously didn't do so well, but I think I did understand clearly that what the comparison was and kind of how to break it down, stuff like that. And I found this task pretty interesting. It helped me better understand the spoof genre and how it kind of works and stuff like that for the next day when I'm actually making a spoof. So overall, I think that was a decent task. Now we're going into the final task, and as always, it's a director case study. So this is where I looked at a spoof director and kind of broke them down and what they work and stuff like that. And I decided to do Mel Brooks, mostly because I'm a big fan of his work and stuff like that, and he's such a big spoof director. He done a Spaceballs, a movie that I previously talked about, and I think this is actually one of my strongest case studies. The reason why I worked that was because I had a lot of sources and stuff like that, and I really went into more detail. This time I actually looked at music and the composers, and kind of understood the music a lot more on every kind of aspect of the director and stuff like that, and why they make certain choices. Whereas my other cases I think were decent, but they didn't really go into the kind of director and what they mean and stuff like that. So I think this was a really strong director case study because it had lots of sources and stuff like that. So overall, I think these 3 tasks went really well. Obviously, I think the free comedy breakdown could have been better, but I think the other 2 classes, the spoof comparison, especially director case study, were really well. And I think I've kind of got into the groove now of doing these kind of analysis and breakdown, stuff like that, and really understanding the directors more. And now I'm starting to bring in a lot more sources, and my sourcing's getting better. So I think overall it's a pretty decent day. And next one I'm going to Friday, and this was the big kind of spoof video planning and stuff like that, and it's probably one of my more stressful days. Okay, Friday was the big spoof day. So basically what we had to do was take a scene, probably more it would better if more of a famous scene, that wasn't in the comedy genre, and we would basically kind of spoof it and basically recreate the video but in a comedic way. So I chose the kind of infamous Carrie prom scene, because I think I'm a big fan of the movie Carrie in the book and stuff like that, and I think that's a good scene. So what we first done was basically I broke down the scene, the kind of a minute scene I was doing just on the Carrie, and worked out what all the beats were and what was happening. So that then when I'd done the exact same thing but with my spoof version. So for example, with the Carrie scene, it's about Carrie. It's got scenes where Carrie's kind of moving her head and stuff like that, through telekinesis and stuff like that to kill the prom guest. Whereas my parody, I'd done it as like a tongue-in-cheek advert for a mobile game. So what I'd done was I'd done the exact same framing and like shots and stuff like that, but I changed the what was on screen to make it comedic. So that, I think that went pretty well, these two kind of breakdowns, and I really understood the kind of breakdowns. I really understood what I understand the essence of what that scene in Carrie was trying to do, and how I could get the essence and be comedic. So next we've done the usual. This was the risk assessment. I think I've done pretty good at risk assessments at the moment. They're pretty simple, mostly because I shoot in the college, just because of limited time and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to travel and stuff like that, so it's always the same kind of risks. The project proposal that I think could have been better. I think firstly the first part, I think that's the biggest disadvantage I had, was I think I could have understood what I could get more out of this genre and like make it cater it more to that genre, because I just talked about kind of editing, but I think I could have gone into more detail and kind of really worked out what this genre could benefit to me. And I think that may start a problem with future project proposals, where I'm not really thinking about how this genre could benefit me. I'm kind of just more doing a general kind of thing. So I think if I was to do this again, I would just kind of go into more detail and really work out what does the spoof genre specifically have as a genre compared to, say, action, that I can benefit from, and that would be a big advantage to me, and why am I doing the spoof genre. So I think that's my biggest disadvantage today, if I'm being honest, is my project proposal. So next we went into storyboards and stuff like that. This was pretty simple. I think these are more simple storyboards because I already kind of had the basic design and idea. It was just kind of putting pictures to it. I think my storyboards are fine for this. They work well. You could clearly see what like it all meant and stuff like that, and like kind of got a basic idea of how I was parodying Carrie. And then finally went into filming, and this is where we're going to Brendan's problem solving corner. It's Brendan's problem solving corner. Hi, this is future Brendan. Just kind of segueing in here. Basically, what's happened is the audio got all messed up a bit because basically for some reason the footage got cut into two parts. As you can see, there's part one, there's part two, and the bit in between where I basically introduce and segue into the problem solving kind of got cut out. So basically, Friday was a difficult filming day, mostly because like compared to other days, we would normally plan, like Thursday night to film Friday morning and edit Friday afternoon, but because it was Friday morning planning, because it was a shorter deadline, it was more difficult, so that created a lot more issues, and we'll just be going into like the first problem. One was that basically to do Carrie, I do telekinesis, that's basically, moving objects and stuff like that. So I was going to use string to kind of pull objects around so it looked like they're moving on their own. Problem was we didn't have any string, and I went to the local One Stop that's near to us, and they didn't have any string, and due to a limited time frame I couldn't just get string. So basically what I'd done was my headphones have a wire connection, so I basically ripped that wire out, I tied it to the SSD, and then used a mouse to tie the cable together, and just basically pushed it. It does look a bit weird on stream, but I think overall, if they were doing it, it's a spoof, so I think it adds to that kind of spoof aspect because it kind of looks a bit terrible. But that's how problem solved around not having string, is basically I made string. I worked out, I looked around and saw what I could, and then I kind of MacGyvered together, as they say, a string. The other problem I had was during the planning process, I thought I'd have a lot more actors to help me kind of act in a video and stuff like that. When it came to actually filming, just because people have their own things and stuff like that, their own stuff going on, I think this is a problem something I should keep in mind next time is, make sure you can definitely get people, is that I didn't actually have enough actors for the scenes. So basically how I problem solved around this was, I had a lot more empty shots and stuff like that, and got quick reactions, mostly of people looking very plain and stuff like this. And I think that actually did work out a benefit to it, because it spoofed the Carrie scene, where in the Carrie scene everyone's just so overreact, like really intense about the situation, really noticing Carrie, whereas in mine nobody cares. That kind of plays more into the comedy of the scene, because it's a lot more kind of funny and stuff like that. So those are my kind of main problems with filming. I think overall filming went well and getting into kind of a nice groove and stuff like that. This was a pretty simple shoot, to be honest. Apart from obviously the string problems and the acting problems, I think I've done pretty well. I'm mostly filming by myself, and there's something I really need to work on. Is I think I really need to start working more in a group and stuff like that, and really working with actors. But at the moment, just because of the limited turnaround, I do mostly act and do all the parts myself. So it went pretty well, and those were the main two problems I actually had doing problem solving. So overall for Friday, if we're talking pros and cons, I would say that pro was filming and stuff like that and really problem solving. I think the filming went great. It was a lot of fun, and I think I really problem solved around the issues and stuff like that. And like the editing went really well. As you can see from the edit, I tried to do a bit more into the edit. I had like movement, I had obviously tinting the lights and stuff like that, and I really tried to embrace it. And I also had the split screen, something I'd never done before, and I think that went pretty well. So overall, I think the editing and filming kind of side of it, something that I always do well, I think I've done really well this time. But I think my biggest con, if you're talking about cons, would be my project proposal. I think the project proposal was kind of weak and stuff like that, and it wasn't as good as it could have been. And I think if I was to do it again, I would obviously just go over that project proposal and make it, as I said, more catered to the spoof genre. So that was Friday, and that was the end of the week. So now I go into the usual kind of overall wrap up. We won't have a target review because last week, as I mentioned, there was no target because it was a trip week. But we will be setting myself a target, and then we'll be back to normal next week. So that was Friday. Next, we're going into the breakdown. Okay, so week 6, aka comedy slash spoof week, or the spoof week. Overall, pretty decent week. I think I've done really well. Biggest pro of the week, I think, would have to be kind of problem solving. I think that's the biggest clear theme across all the 3 days. Is my problem solving. So on Tuesday, obviously, I had the problems with Seriously Good and like the footage I had. I managed to problem solve around that. Wednesday, not as many problems. So Thursday, not as many problems, but I did kind of put a bit more effort in and really kind of understand Seriously Good TV, and sorry, it's not Seriously Good TV, really understand the director Mel Brooks, so that went really well. And then Friday, obviously, I had the 2 biggest problem solving with the filming, the acting, and stuff like that. So overall, pro of the week would be problem solving, and I would say con of the week, if we're talking overall, I'd say con of the week would be the project proposal. I just think it was really weak and stuff like that, and I think like this is the big problem that I think starting to crop up, is that I'm thinking too big pictures, stuff like that, and I need to think more about the smaller 2 details, such as the project proposal, or like example the audio problems I had during the Seriously Good. So I think the biggest con of the week is I'm thinking too big picture. I need to think about these little details that, like, to be honest, the project proposal I'm not as interested in, but it's an important part of my learning and kind of understanding and stuff like that. And I think I need to get better at the project proposal and think more about, you know, less of the flashy stuff, the filming and stuff like that, just more fun stuff, and think more about the project proposal and stuff like that. So that goes into my target for next week. As next week, I think is I don't know what next week is, but this kind of more of a target I would say is get like really understand more small picture and stuff like that, and look at the more little details of a project. Specifically look at, like, say, project proposals. I need to think more about the project proposals, so I need to think, you know, not about the big picture, what filming, stuff like that, and think these little aspects like the project proposal, the risk assessment, stuff like that, and really nail those down. So I think once I really nail down how to do them, I can think more about the big picture. But for now, I think I need to think, the target is think more small picture. So overall, pretty decent week. Thanks for watching. I don't know what next week will be, just because of the midpoint check. It may be a work week. I don't know, but I will be doing a reflective vlog. And then the week after that is the half term, so it'll be a week break. But thanks for watching. That's been week 5 of my year 2 course.